Hello everyone, welcome to KK4Z. My name is Scott and I'm off to another adventure. This time I'm going to Fort Mountain State Park, and today will be an EmComm exercise as well as a FunComm exercise. I will be doing some things to support one of my EmComm groups, the Early Warning Network, and we will be trying some new things and doing some new things. And basically what I'm going to do is everything I do on a typical Friday at home for the Early Warning Network, I'm going to be doing in the field, because hey, someday that just may be it. So everybody stay tuned, and I'll have more later on. This is Scott out. Alrighty, welcome back to KK4Z. My name is Scott, and part one of my FTX was accomplished. I received an email for the National Intelligence Brief. In the last town I was in, I was able to successfully sign the document and send it out via Vera AC using my mobile configuration. Now I'm up in northwestern Georgia, and this was sent out to central Alabama. The rig is an EmComm 7100, my laptop, and then my antenna was nothing more than this 102-inch whip bent over. So more than likely it was NVIS, but I successfully sent the NIB out. It looked like I was getting about 170 to almost 400 bits per second. I think the average was about 170, and it worked really well, nice and zippy quick. So that's part one. The next phase will happen when I get to the campsite, but I'm glad this worked, and we'll talk to you more later on. All right, everybody, this is KK4Z again. This is the interior of my shack as it is set up. A K3, which is really kind of a K3S, is down there in the corner. I've got my CW key set up and my computer currently running FT8 for a little while until the net tonight. So far conditions have been good. I'm going to try not to get too dizzy as I transition to the outside. Okay, so out here, that up there is my GPS dongle, and that's what I use to synchronize my time on my laptop. Antenna this time is a little different. It is my Chameleon EmComm 3 version 1, and this is I believe it's a 60-foot wire. It's going up maybe 13 to 15 feet, and then it's going out that way, and then underneath it, and you can see it here, is the ground wire, or the counterpoise. And so what I have here is an NVIS antenna. It's on, let's see, it's on that tree right there. It's only about 5 or 6 foot off the ground there, but it's working really well. I got on WinLink and sent a couple emails with the National Intelligence Brief, and that was one of my tasks, is to use Vera C, which I used earlier. I also got on, set up here, and sent a quick message to my buddy just to make sure I could still make the connection from this campground. This campground is down off the mountaintop, so there's a little bit of physical terrain blocking going on. But operating NVIS, I've been running some FT8 and a lot of local stuff, Georgia, Tennessee, then out to Minnesota, Louisiana, and so it's doing what it's supposed to do. And so far, the equipment is doing well. I have a personal fail, but that's why we test this stuff, and that is I was using a note-taking product to hold on to my email addresses I was going to send out with WinLink here. However, what has happened was that particular app did not sync to either my phone, which is what I'm on right now, or my iPad. And the computer I'm using, the laptop, I have it air gapped right now, and so it never got it either. I'm going to have to change an app on that, but I did have a couple of the email addresses, so I was able to send out a WinLink to at least a couple people, and then everybody else will get it tonight. Like I said earlier, I sent the NIB out using VaraAC or VaraAC, and this was the setup I used. The antenna was bent over just like that on 40 meters. I was at the base of the mountain. In other words, I picked up the NIB via email, which is how I normally get it for now. And then in my cab, I PGP signed it and got it ready for transport. And then I just pulled off the side of the road, hooked my laptop up to my mobile radio, which in this case is an EmComm 7100, hit the tune button, and was able to send it at a pretty good clip. So that was a pass. That was a good thing. And so far this setup here is working well. I probably could even run this without that fiberglass pole. And I may reconfigure before it's all said and done. But in general, everything is working. Like I said, so far I have one fail, and it's me. It's a personal fail. Tonight, I have a digital net, and we will try to see how that works. And I'll be using the FL Digi suite of apps, sending at least by FL message and then maybe FL amp. And we'll see how that goes. Again, this is a test of the field operations. The scenario for this is what you would kind of call a shoot and scoot. If you were in a non-permissive environment, what you would want to do is drive somewhere, stop, operate your radio, transmit, receive, whatever, and then break down your station and go. And you may or may not have to do that. The same thing if you are in a hurricane or a disaster area, you may have to go into an area, stop, submit a report, and then go to the next area and do it again. Using your radios in the field is a lot different for a lot of different reasons. One is you can't necessarily call your wife and say, "Honey, make me dinner now," or if you have to take care of other business, you have to stop and you have to tend to that. There's the maintaining of your camper and the maintaining of yourself under those conditions. There's a lot of distractions. The park I'm currently at, which is Fort Mountain State Park, has a very active black bear population here, and right now they are out and about. And so there's that concern. If you're in a non-permissive environment, then there's other people that you have to be concerned about. If you're in a hurricane, well, there's weather-related things you have to be concerned about. It's a lot different. And one of the things about operating in the field is once you are where you are, what you have is what you have. And a practice that I always encourage people to do is, if you are going to go take your radios to the field, go at least 20 miles from your house. And the reason why I say that is because 20 miles is that line between, I'll just run back home and get it, or I'll make do with what I have. And that's what you have to do. Sometimes you just have to make do with what you have, but you'll never refine your equipment if you're always relying on extra stuff that you don't normally bring. So that's kind of it for now. It's nice and cool. Oh, it's so nice and cool. I like it so much. But really nice campsite, nice and quiet. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna run a FT8 for a while just to see how the bands are doing, see how my radio's doing, and then tonight I'll run the net, and then tomorrow I may, run some more. But I've got to do a lot of writing. I got to write this stuff up as I go along, because this is more of an EmComm than a FunComm thing, and we have to do that as well. But the FunComm comes in because I'm using FT8 to check my equipment to see how my antenna's doing out there in the wild, and that's kind of fun. All right, well, that's it. We'll talk to you later. This is Scott, clear. Alrighty, well, I'm back again, and I have changed the configuration of my antenna. Reason being is I have some power lines that are nearby, and while I had it rigged before, I felt fairly safe. I thought, if this ever happens again, I thought I would, try a different configuration. So what I have done is I have attached the antenna to the back of my camper at the railing, and I'll fix this when I get done, but I wanted to get this before it either started raining or got too dark. And then what I have done is, you can see up there, I've kind of turned this into an end-fed inverted V. Still has some height above the ground, and then it is now back here onto this little tree right here. And what I will do is I will reroute the grounding wire, the counterpoise, underneath it here, and that'll be my next step. But I really didn't like the way that was set up, so I'm going to try this again. This is why we go out and we practice, so we can see how to work and do different things and gain experience with our equipment. So I'm going to fix the counterpoise, and then we'll go back in and see how it does, and we'll talk to you later. Alrighty, back again. I decided to change the configuration again. What I discovered in playing with this was the counterpoise was leaning against this, and while this doesn't feel like it's insulated, it feels like it's plastic, not aluminum. I did not want to radiate the whole camper, and so what I did is I always have extra cord with me, so I just created a big loop and then moved everything out where nothing is now touching the camper. And again, just a little bit of loosening and tightening, and now I still have an inverted V, and I still have my counterpoise here. I can pull it this way a little bit to be a little safer, but it still does not touch the camper, and that's what we want. And so I'm going to run this configuration, I think, for the rest of my time here. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, this is the stuff you have to work through when you go to a field location, and you gain experience. And I've never run it like this, but I'm going to try it. And a lot of the manuals I read say this is a good way to do it. It is safe. It's over my head. It should be over most people's head unless you're about 6'10". But it's safer, and we'll see how it works. But yeah, get your gear, go out and test it and try it, monkey with it, and see what works best for you. We'll talk to you later. Alrighty, well, here it is, Friday night. It's about 20 after 10. I ran my digital net, the eWarn Scene digital net for regions 4 and 6. It went well. I had a problem with one of the pieces of software I had. It seems that the version I had on my computer is real buggy, and I should go back a version to get a better running one. But other than that, I think the net ran well. The scripts I had, I think they worked pretty good. I might need to address them a little bit. Had 23 check-ins. Oh, man, I was so happy about that. It's the first time we run this net, and I was just really grateful for everybody that checked in. I was really grateful for everybody's patience in working through some of the things I had. The piece of software that was giving me trouble was FLAMP, and that is the one that has an amount of error correction to it. But the version I had was really buggy. And the other thing I learned, this was a trip where I really wanted to kind of stretch myself and stretch my equipment and, see where it was. Now, the antenna I used today was my Chameleon EmComm 3 version 1. And that's typically a good antenna. However, it does not do very well running a digital net where there's a high duty cycle. It tends to get hot, and when it does, the SWR goes up, and then of course when the SWR goes up, the power goes down. So that was an issue there. It's really not designed to do that, but again, I stretched it. And now I know for sure that when I run a net, that antenna I can't use because it gets too hot. The radio, the K3 worked well. It tolerated the SWR. I was putting out between 25 and 35 watts. NVIS, wow. It was really great tonight. Before the net, I ran a little FT8. And all the states right around me, I'm here in Georgia, all had decibels in the positive numbers. And then the further away I went, the signal strength went down. When I was working into Europe a little bit, I was getting into the negative teens. And so that really showed me that I was really using NVIS this time with the antenna, which I have it set up as an inverted V. Each end is about 6 foot, 6.5 foot off the ground. The center of the inverted V is probably 10-ish, 12-ish feet off the ground. But worked really well. In fact, later on this evening, I was as 40 meters was going long, I was getting further out. I was getting more into Europe. I had Portugal. I got into Guadalupe in the Caribbean. I got into Dominican Republic. I did get into Spain. I got up into Canada, a couple different provinces in Canada. So the antenna worked well. It just can't take that high duty cycle. The rest of my stuff, my computer, my laptop worked well. I did use WinLink. I sent an email with the NIB to two people. One of the fails I had, I think I mentioned this earlier, was the app I was using to store the email addresses I was going to use to send the WinLink. For some reason, it did not carry over to my phone like my other apps do. A lot of my other apps, if I put it on one device, it automatically transfers to the other one. But this one didn't do it, so I'm gonna have to look for a new app. Luckily, I had a couple email addresses on my computer that I was able to use, so I was still able to get the NIB out. Vara. Oh, I love Vara. Vara for WinLink, Vara AC. Man, it's just a bomb diggity. We're going to explore that a lot more. It's a lot faster. Using Vara, if I use Vara, for running a digital net, it would just be so much quicker. And my antenna would tolerate the duty cycle because what normally takes 5 or 6 minutes using a mode like MFSK 32, I can send in about a minute using Vara. And so that works out. So anyhow, tomorrow I'm going to play radio a little bit. I'm going to start writing up what I have. There's a lot I have to say, a lot I want to talk about. But all in all, good night. Like I said, I had passes, I had fails, but I came out here to stretch my system, to find out those weaknesses, and I did. So overall, it was a success. But we'll talk to you more tomorrow. Hello, everyone. This is Scott again. This is Saturday morning, about 10:30. I went ahead and broke down my station, mainly because it looks like there's some weather moving in. We had a bunch of fog just come through. It's still kind of foggy. The weather's cooling down. It got real overcast. It was partly sunny this morning, so it looked like we were getting some weather. And the band conditions were not that good this morning, so I weighed the whether I should stay operating and then have to deal with wet equipment when I get home, mainly my antenna, or just pack it up and do some other stuff. I've got my blog to write, and I've got a lot of numbers to crunch. I think I have a really good case for an NVIS antenna and how it actually works. I collected about 168 contacts. Most of them are on 40, which is what I was using, or what I believe I was getting NVIS. But I've got to take the numbers off of my log, put them into a spreadsheet, and get some numbers and put that in. So that'll take some time, and I could either start today or put it off till tomorrow. But like I said, looking at the weather here, it looks like we have a little bit of weather coming in. So I may even go home early tonight. I don't know. It just depends. But it was good. Last night, 40 was pretty good until probably till about 9, 10 o'clock at night. Then it kind of died out. I had a brief sprint this morning on 40, which was pretty good. Then 40 died out, and then 20 just never really picked up. I looked at some of the other bands. I looked at 10, 12, 15, and 17, and 30, and they were all kind of dead. And so I didn't feel it was worth me getting a wet antenna and having to deal with that when I get home. So I just packed it all up, and I'll just enjoy the day. I'll either sit out here outside and do some number crunching, or I'll sit in my camper and do some number crunching. It's just nice being out, and I'll decide what I'm going to do later. But it was a good experience. Like I said, I'm going to write a really long blog post this time. Mainly because there's a lot to write about. This is more like an FTX, a field training exercise, than it was a pod activation. Like I said earlier, I did a grab your gear and go. I didn't do any more checking of my equipment than I normally do for a pod activation, except this time I had a lot of specific tasks for EmComm that I wanted to try to complete. And while my station worked fairly well, there are some gaps that I need to fill, and I'll talk about those in my blog, and I've talked about them some here. But this is why we go out and train. This is why we go out and practice. This is why I tell people, I said, get your radios and go out in the field and see how they work. I changed my antenna configuration, I think 3 times before I got the way I liked it, and it worked well. Having to deal with a little bit of adversity. Like I said, I have a power line that runs right over my campsite, and so I couldn't, when I used my push-up pole, I couldn't go as high up on it as I like to because of the power lines. So I had to keep my antenna low because that's wire. My push-up pole is fiberglass. That's insulated. But then I didn't like that, and I went to a version of the inverted V, and I didn't like the way I had it hooked up to the camper, so I changed that, and then finally I got it the way to where I liked it. and it worked well. But like I said, you guys, you got to get out and you got to check your stuff in the field, and you got to get far enough away from home where you can't just run back home to get something, because that's okay. Like for field day, oh, I'll just run home and get my stuff. But when you're 100 miles into a disaster area like a hurricane, and 100 miles is not a bad number. I will tell you that I have been in places where it was 100 miles to the nearest power or anything. I have been places where it's been 50 or 60 miles. So whatever you had in your vehicle and on your person, that was it. And so go far enough away where you don't have the years to go back home, and then try to make do with what you brought, and then take notes so that next time it'll be better. Because working in the field is a whole different experience than working at home. You've got a lot of distractions. There's a lot of other things you have to tend to. If you're running solo like I was this weekend, you got to feed yourself. You got to go make the potty stops. You got to, make sure your campsite is set up right. You make sure that your food is cold if it's supposed to be cold, warm if it's supposed to be warm. Just a lot of things. It's just a constant bunch of distractions, and if you don't get used to that, it'll make your life miserable. So that's it for this activation. I think I'm going to close out here, and where I am right now, there is no cell service. So the earliest I can probably post this is either Sunday or Monday when I get home. But anyhow, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you guys checking out my blog. I appreciate you stopping in. I get a lot of good feedback about stuff. Some of my posts end up on other people's websites. I've got a couple of my posts going into a radio club's newsletter in October. So I appreciate it, because I try to put things in there that's not only fun, but stuff you can use, or at least stuff you can think about. So that's it. You all have a great day and have a better weekend, and we'll talk to you later. This is Scott, KK4Z, saying 73s.